This is the Surly Grognards for February 19th, 2018. This is Peter Bowman, and as always, I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Eric Carlson. How are you doing tonight, Eric?
I'm doing all right.
Excellent. No exploding sandwiches?
Unfortunately.
Well. So, we got an email from Bardic DM suggesting that maybe we should do another campaign brainstorming session. And
Yay!
Eric and I both said, yes, that seems like a good idea. He posted, he came up with several actually fairly intriguing concepts. The problem is for some of them, we don't know enough about one of the subgenres involved to really do it on short notice. We'd have to do research.
Yeah. For example, I just don't know nearly enough about Mideast mythology to do something set there.
Me neither. I really don't. And there are a couple other ones I kind of like, but it got me thinking, and I've got a possible starting point for one, Eric.
Okay.
All right, so first off, we're starting with fantasy. Now, we've done a couple of fantasy things before. But, I mean, and frankly, there are a lot of ways to go with fantasy. I mean, duh. What I am thinking, though, is specifically something very sort of, I'm thinking about starting off with a very heavy bent on Magetek.
Okay.
But not like, not like the sort of way we did with the Magic Knights campaign idea.
Right.
Just more sort of general more general magical technology, and sort of magically based technology that sort of has largely replaced in this society traditional magic.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of spellcasters of significant power, but a lot of what that could be done with magic that they don't really have anybody who can be replicated with magical technology.
Hmm.
So that's where it's starting. Is
sort of like lots of artificers and
enchanters and alchemists and stuff like that. So they're good at enchantment, but they're not really good at direct sort of overt spellcasting. And I think part of it is I like the idea of it being sort of the world being a place where magic used to be a big deal.
Right.
Like big power, and there at one point were nations of like Sorcerer Kings and shit.
Hmm.
And something led to their to them being sort of they're largely their downfall, on being replaced by more sort of replaced with the sort of the less overtly sort of magic tech stuff.
Okay.
Sort of a democratization of magic, as it were, in some ways.
Okay, I can see that.
So with the magic technology, magic is no longer solely in the hands of the elite that that were able to learn high level of magics. It's now almost anyone can by just going down to the corner shop and buying a magical doohickey.
Right. Okay. I can see that.
Again, it's Industrial Revolution, but with magic instead.
With magic, right?
I like the phrase the democratization of magic.
Yes, it's a good phrase.
That said, that's where I'm starting. But you need. I like the reason I like the idea of there being previous sort of like the Sorcerer Kings, which is just a great term. That as much as I'm not a fan of damn, I forgot the name of it all of a sudden. Dark Sun. I love the term Sorcerer King. It's just a good term.
It's a good term. And Sorcerer and Dark Sun is awesome. Screw you. Fight me.
Nah, it's not worth fighting over. I don't care enough about Dark Sun to fight over it.
It's got Thri-kreen.
They're cool. Eh. Just not my bag. At any rate, that said, I think the idea of, the Sorcerer Kings not actually being completely gone, but just not in the area where the campaign's taking place, like primarily, or something, maybe they're returning, some of them. Like there are some, like, sorcerers empires out there that are looking to retake what was once theirs.
Okay, I can see that. Like this whole magical revolution happened largely in a localized place and started to spread out, and a few of the Sorcerer Kings have fallen because they refused to group together to contain it, and now they're just a few remnants, and they're like, okay, we are now one empire because we don't have a choice, and we need to take back what's ours because they got all the good shit now.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, I like the idea of the remaining Sorcerer Kings being forced to work together despite their natural proclivities to not
scheme and backstab and whatnot. Basically, you've got the higher echelons of Cobra.
All right, yeah, that could work. I like it. So, right. So I guess, that's sort of a starting point. And it's sort of an overview. So, I guess, where do we go from there is the next obvious question. Is So we've got, Magic is sort of, I guess, divided between, those who, so, the Magetek stuff, which is, so I guess, most of the sort of spellcastery types.
What I'm sort of seeing, though, is things aren't necessarily better under the democratization of magic, because you're always going to have assholes. So what you end up with are artificer robber barons.
Okay.
So you don't have a clear good guy or bad guy here.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean,
yeah. I mean, clearly you're going to have propaganda on both sides, but
yeah.
But yeah, you'll have some artificer robber barons. But the overall quality of life has skyrocketed for people inside the revolution zones.
Sure.
But you still have, assholes doing asshole things.
Well, that's a given. I mean, that sure, yeah. Oh, I wasn't trying to picture.
You're going to have your Rockefellers and your Standard Oil and whatnot.
I wasn't really trying to picture it as, the good guys versus bad guys thing. It was more a case of there being an outside threat more than anything, is what I was looking at with the Sorcerer Kings. Not so much the Sorcerer Kings aren't necessarily inherently evil. Just,
hidebound.
Yeah. And I mean, some of them probably are. I mean,
yeah. There is clearly going to be a Destro in there. Come on. At least once a Pantor. This I command! Shut up, Bob.
Oh, God. But yeah, it's sort of, yeah, well, I mean, it's sort of the obvious, yes, not all, if you just look at, our history, not all sort of, the fledgling democratic, sort of, more, less feudal, places were particularly good. I mean, a lot of them weren't.
Right.
And not all the monarchies were bad. I mean, there are a lot of actually decent monarchs out there over time. It's just, not all of them are great either. I mean, hell, you just have to look at the 30 Years' War, and you can just look at wow, yeah, no.
The mess that was.
Oh, Jesus Christ. And if so and the nominal democracies, republics out there.
Sure. At the same time, you've got the fledgling German Empire, which was looking pretty good up until World War I kicked it in the nuts.
Oh yeah, that's post 30 Years' War, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 30 years war. There wasn't actually a Germany. There were the Germanies, which were
yeah, you had like Prussia and Austria, and
it wasn't even that organized. They were just a bunch of
right.
30 years. The 30 Years War is it's just a messy period in Europe.
I also have a bit of a rosy look at the German Empire at the moment, largely because I just read a whole bunch of stuff about Otto von Bismarck and how much of a fucking baller that guy was.
Oh, sure, but that was much later. I mean, Bismarck was much later than 30 Years War.
Yes, Bismarck was friggin' amazing. I just want to get that out there. Bismarck was fucking amazing. That dude is crazy.
So, but yeah, I mean, hell, I mean, when I say democratization of magic, also, I don't mean like necessarily that we have a democracy here.
Right. It's just that it's much more available to.
I mean that magic is more available to more people, because using Magetek doesn't require decades of study or an innate connection to the to what like Aether or whatever.
Right.
But I like that. We could say it's the Aether. I mean,
sure.
Because
we'll call it the Aether. That's fine.
So yeah, magic.
I like that. That way you have Aether mills. I love the idea of Aether mills.
That's great, Eric. Yes. It's like a windmill.
We will have Aether mills.
Aether mills that is a wonderful way to generate magic. I love it. Generate magical energy. That's great.
I have no idea what they look like yet, but I love the term.
It's a great term. Oh my god. Giant towers with sort of
just like festooned with runes and like Tesla coils and orichalcum cables and
I'm envisioning like a tower with like something that's sort of vaguely akin to what like a windmill would look like, except it doesn't rotate and it's just got sort of like an orichalcum net between the arms. And like the top, just like occasionally will pivot and such into the to follow the Aethers, the flow of the Aether.
Yeah, you can also do similar deals with like a water wheel. Only instead of the wheel being generating the power, what you have instead is the wheel capturing the Aether from out of the river.
Interesting.
Or the ley line.
Yes, the ley line. I like that. That's great, Eric. So Aether wheels too.
Yeah. Aether mills, Aether wheels. This is great.
All right, so we've got that. So that's sort of the core of where you're getting the raw magic that the Arcanosmiths use to make magic tech, which can be used for a bunch of different stuff. And they're starting to. I like this. It's sort of, and I think we definitely want to have it sort of replicating sort of sort of Industrial Revolution, early steam tech stuff, but not like
actual steampunk.
Right, not actual steampunk, but that's not where we're really. I really want to end up having like early day steampunk,
Right,
but not really. So you got locomotives, magical locomotives are a thing. Because that's something you can easily, if you can harness I mean that's fairly simple and straightforward. I mean,
a horseless carriage is a thing.
Right.
They're massive, so you end up with less locomotives and more like land ships.
Okay.
Because I kind of like that idea.
Sure.
But then but there could be locomotives also, because you could just have them be bound to the ley lines.
Ooh, those are the first ones, because that's the easiest way for them to generate the power.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. They lay the highway or track or whatever over the ley lines, because that's easy. You just put an Aether wheel in the damn thing.
Right, exactly. That's simple. Getting it to go somewhere that's not on there, God, that's tricky stuff.
Yeah.
That takes more engineering.
It takes more engineering that requires like almost capacitors.
Yes. Which they figured out, but it's hard. They've then figured out how to make a sort of a capacitor type thing big enough to power something really, really big and massive.
Yeah, so like no airships.
Right. No.
As awesome as airships are, we're going to rule them out for now.
Sure.
One of the major things might be sabotaging or saving an airship, the first airship prototype.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Like the concept of an airship is something that everyone's thought is like, yeah, that's something that's probably doable. Like a hot air balloon is not an inobvious concept once you actually figure out,
Yeah.
something along those lines. Yeah, so some sort of airship, I think, is something to, like, in the near future, I think. But not, like, not immediate. I'd like, yeah. And, they figured out a few ways to use
I like to imagine that there's sort of a similar thing to the space race, only it's the air race. Everyone's trying to get up there.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I like that. I definitely think there probably should be a couple of different nations in this sort of that in the area that
Sure,
where the revolution, where this magical revolution has taken place, because none of them can fully agree, because no one agrees entirely on what form of government they really want, etc.
Right.
They were all different. They all had they were all parts of different sorcerer kingdoms, and so none of them were had exactly the same culture.
But the borders are completely bonked from what they were before.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's just yeah.
Because the Sorcerer King borders were largely arbitrary, based on who kicked whose ass that week.
Right. Yeah, I like it.
I also like the idea of the whatchamacallit, the revolution area, for lack of a better term, being a lot more cosmopolitan. So you have assuming we have other races other than just humans, so you have more intermingling between the races.
Sure, and if that's actually a good question, do we want to have more things other than human?
I hadn't considered it until the thought of it being more cosmopolitan popped into my head.
Part of me kind of wants to have non-humans not actually be a thing in this, just to be different from the other fantasy games we've done.
Yeah, but part of me is but dude, orcs.
I understand, and we're doing a Magetek campaign, and part of me goes, but dwarves.
I know,
but I like the idea of it being. I think I like the idea of it being sort of just sort of human based, just because not just because it's different, but because it allows us to look at to show that humans can be very culturally very different. As a way to look at it. I mean, I guess. But on the other hand,
orcs and dwarves.
Yeah.
Filthy, filthy elves.
I mean, hell, we don't have to have elves. You could do a fantasy world without elves, Eric.
Yes, you can. But I like the idea of one of the Sorcerer Kings being an elf. Maybe one of the last elves. He could be our Serpentor analog.
Oh no, Eric. I have a better idea for the elves.
What's that?
And I think you're going to like it. Now, I'm not someone who inherently dislikes elves, but I like the idea of the elves being a thing that have sort of largely kept away from the Sorcerer Kings and humanity and such. And being a large theocratic state who've been looking in on this or what's going on over with the sorcerer. They were always sort of in contention with the Sorcerer Kings, but it was never to the point where most common people knew about it. And they look on at this, that they sort of, the way humans and dwarves and orcs and such use arcane magic and the Aether and such as something that is wrong and bad and heretical. And this Magetek stuff is even worse.
It's a perversion of the natural order.
Exactly.
An affront to the divine right of the gods and their chosen.
Yeah, exactly. I like the idea of there being sort of a theocratic state of some sort being opposed to the sort of arcane magics, both the Sorcerer Kings and this nascent, arcanists use to, arcane engineers use as a, as potential is not just heretical, but possibly dangerous as far as they're concerned. And who knows? Maybe it is dangerous.
Maybe it is dangerous. Maybe there are long-term effects that aren't being seen.
Right. And maybe not. Who knows?
And maybe not. Maybe they're just being batshit insane chumps. Because, batshit insane chumps. But it might also be because of their long lifespans. They're starting to see effects that we're not.
Right, because
we can leave that wide open for the GM.
Exactly. No, yeah, I like that actually. Like, it's very clear to the elves things have changed, and they don't. It's not, as far as they're concerned, it's not for the better, and it's making things worse. Now, whether that's actually true or not, that's open to interpretation by someone who's running this game. I like that. I like that a lot, actually. Yeah. And so they are finally the Elven Theocracy is finally beginning to, like, when it was just the Sorcerer Kings, it was bad, but it was something the elves thought they could contain without actually,
getting
directly involved.
Look at them, it's terrible.
Like, this is bad, but we can contain it.
Right. Because it was just a few individuals using it. Now everyone's got a fucking, like, magic-powered can opener.
Right, it's just like, no. There's just too much Aether being used all at once now, as far as the elves are concerned.
Right. Yeah, I can dig it.
Yeah. It's like, no, you don't use Aether that way. No! What are you doing? You're pulling the Aether of the land. That's bad.
But it's right there. I mean, next they're going to tell us we can't use, like, iron ore. I mean, come on, guys. Don't be ridiculous. I actually like the idea that, like, but we don't use iron ore. How do you do it? It's all made out of wood. How? We're very good at it.
It takes skill and practice.
I actually like the idea. Actually, I really like the idea that elven ironwood blades are, like, the sharpest things out there. And everyone's like, I have no idea how they do it, but they hold an edge like nothing else we've got.
That's actually really cool. I do like that. It's like,
yeah,
motherfucker, this is a wooden sword. A wooden sword!
And I can shave with a motherfucker.
How the hell did they do that?
And it doesn't get dull. How does that work? Yeah, I dig that.
Yep. I just looked at the chat, and Ashburner says, can't use Aether to fuel everything. Why not switch to clean, efficient coal power? That's not what the elves are doing either. I like the fact that I also think that the elves do use magic, but their magic, the magic they use it's divine magic. It's power being...
Yeah, it's being channeled from their gods.
Right. So they're not using Aether to power their magic at all. They're using divine energy, and which is infinite because it's from the gods.
Yeah. Or so they think. It could be that the gods themselves have a limited amount. That's why they only, like, dole it out a little bit at a time.
Right.
Oh, the most terrifying things the elves have. Flash crafters and their abominations.
Okay. Maybe. Well, give me more.
Okay, so someone in the chat mentioned the idea that the reason why the elven swords are so good at what they do is because they're alive. Let's extrapolate that out to, like, to a particularly reviled, even amongst the elves order of flesh crafters.
Okay.
But they're reviled and they're pariahs, but they're also very highly valuable because they're expert healers, but they do other things too.
Aha, I see.
And so during the first elven raids, you start seeing these like giant shambling monstrosities used as shock troopers, and they're the things that the elven flesh crafters built for war.
Ooh. So even the elves are a little sort of like, should we actually be using these?
Yeah, even the elves are like, should we be doing this? The elder fleshsmiths are like, but can you afford not to?
Okay, I like it.
Mostly because it's an excuse to use flesh crafters. I just think that idea is cool.
It's interesting.
Okay, so how does this magic tech generally work? Like, I'm seeing like very like early industrial revolution stuff where a lot of the magic tech is used to be more efficient at producing everyday items. Like, you get a pair of shears, or you could talk to the blacksmith and he'll give you a pretty good pair of shears. Or you could go to the general store. They get them pressed out by the friggin'
Okay. Yeah.
knife press thing. And I think a big deal with this is literacy has become a lot easier because of the magical printing press.
Yep, that works.
So people are generally better educated in in this area. But like, you can have like magic timepieces that require either constant winding or to stay on the fucking ley line. Like, yes, they are self-winding as long as you are on the ley line.
You're near it, like, you know.
Yes. I also like the idea of not gunpowder, but something similar, having recently being discovered and weaponized because of the whatchamacallit, the aggression of both the Sorcerer Kings and the Elves.
Sure.
So we've got relatively accurate early firearms. We don't have a lot of them because we're actually using an alchemical powder instead of gunpowder.
Ooh, no, I've got an idea, Eric. Well, alchemical powder is not bad. I like that also.
Okay.
The gun could be an offshoot of failed magical storage Aether storage technology.
Ooh, yes.
So it's not like it's gunpowder, but it's, you know. So
it's a capacitor. It's an early version of a miniaturized capacitor. The problem is, if you jostle it just right, it discharges. So you end up with like these bolts of aether power instead of actual bullets,
which ruins the crystal.
Yeah,
or whatever they're using to store it. I like crystals just because, you know.
Yeah, they can
or
be
some sort of rock at least.
Yeah, it's like a crystal with like maybe some like orichalcum or bands around them or something. I don't know. Yeah.
See, yeah, we were able to actually store trap aether in these things. Unfortunately, it's not what we like to call stable. So it's kind of useless to store power to actually use power because, you know, if anything goes wrong, it'll discharge its power very suddenly,
aggressively.
And
but we figured out a way to focus it into a bolt in one direction, so there we go.
And you couldn't use it like as a chucked like explosive thing because you don't know what you didn't at first, like they didn't realize you could never completely predict what direction the bolt of the energy would come out of it from.
Right, because it would always come out in a direction, which is why it needs to be focused.
Exactly.
The barrel for all intents and purposes.
Right. I like this.
Which also gives us a larger version of Aether cannons.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Which is cool.
And that's how they have even a hope to fight the Sorcerer Kings and their armies.
Yes. Because they've got, like, soulbound dragons for an air core, and, like, legions of necromantically animated dead.
Exactly.
And monsters that they've charmed into their service, and all that kind of craziness. All in addition to their normal, like, knights and infantry levies and whatnot.
And, their own sort of direct magics and the magics of their apprentices and shit.
Yep.
Okay, and actually,
which is why the elves use the fleshcrafter abominations. They need some way to compete.
Right, exactly. Like, so yeah, we don't have the direct magical firepower the Sorcerer Kings do. But, we have our divine magic, which we can use to, enhance and, protect and heal our troops. But even that's not, like, that'll help us against their magic and shit. But goddamn those goddamn like ensorcelled dragons and shit. How the fuck do we fight those?
The Aether cannons are just terrifying. We need something to soak up talk to the flesh crafters.
They'll come up with something. It's like, yeah, we probably could, like, convince a friendly dragon, some dragon, to help us out of its own free will, but we have to actually, like, convince them or pay them or something.
Yeah, I like that. So yeah, the elves do occasionally have, like, ally spirits and entities also.
Yep.
Like dryads and treants and
yep.
And ally dragons and whatnot. But those are not expendable the way necromantic troops are.
Right.
And they don't have the, for lack of a better term, reliability of the Aether weapons.
Right.
So they go to the flesh crafters, and, no one's really sure where they're getting all that stuff. I mean, villages go missing all the time. And no one really cares, and no one's heard of anything that happened for that prison, but they were all jerks anyway.
All right, I like it. That's definitely creepy and weird, which is not a bad thing.
Right.
So yeah, I think the Sorcerer Kings. I do.
I love the ideas. Like, you do an Elven campaign, you go and investigate this. Like, no, we just have flesh vats. Why would we steal our own people? That's monstrous. What do you think we are? But that's those are the whispered rumors that are being repeated in all the kingdoms about these things.
Right.
Whether or not it's true.
Right. No, absolutely. So yeah, I do think that, like, the Sorcerer Kings, like, I just sort of thinking back about them, they're very much like sort of traditional aristocracies in that,
Yep.
it's, the ability to use magic is in the blood. Like,
Yeah.
Because, most of the mortal races don't live long enough to actually study magic long enough to discover how to, be able to use it as effectively. You have to have actual raw magical talent in order to learn it fast enough.
Right.
Like, it's theoretically possible one could learn to actually use magic the way they do if you lived hundreds of years.
And that's one of the things with the artificers and whatnot, is that, like, they can learn enough to move the energies around, but not to shape it. But they can build items that can shape it.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. But yeah, so with the Sorcerer Kings, they definitely have, like, they've got, it's an aristocracy of sorcerers, with the king on top, who's
right.
putatively the most powerful.
Theoretically, he's the most powerful. That everyone recognizes him as the most powerful, whether or not he actually is. Because you have to have significant magical chops to be a Sorcerer King.
Right.
But it doesn't always work out that way, because, you're not always necessarily the actual most powerful, because, politics are a thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. And of course, you would never marry you would never marry off your children to someone who didn't have magical chops either.
No, of course not. That would be ridiculous.
That would cause
that would weaken the bloodlines.
You might have someone who couldn't cast. Dear Lord, they might have children who couldn't cast magic, couldn't learn magic.
Scandalous.
That'd be terrible.
I actually like the idea that there's like a big blood feud between two of the magic houses, because that's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
One of the houses is really good at covering it up.
That's good. Okay, that's good.
Actually, I like the idea that that's like one of the reasons why the rebel areas like spread so quickly is because those two houses are so busy blasting the hell out of each other over this centuries-long, or maybe even just decades-long grudge.
I like decades. I like decades for that.
Yeah.
All right, so we got that. All right, so the question is, how was the ability how was the Magetek Revolution started? Is the thing, like, who figured this shit out first?
I like the idea of the whole artificer thing, always having been an aspect of magic.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah. Enchanting has always been a thing.
Yeah. But like and the Sorcerer Kings coming up with the idea roughly around the all at the same time to create they wanted to have more access to enchanted items for whatever reason. So they all came up with the same idea, roughly around the same time to create universities.
Okay.
And then, because you have, and the idea was to have it tightly controlled, but when you get so many well-educated people together, all learning the same similar stuff, you start having a critical mass of idea havers, and suddenly they start adapting it to other things, and that's when it all started coming apart.
So I like the idea of like some enchant student, sort of apprentice enchanter. Just like in his off time, just noodling with ideas. Like, hey, I wonder if I could do this.
Yes.
Hey, that's actually kind of cool. Maybe that's a neat idea. Just as a thought exercise, maybe I'll build a small model of it. Hey, it actually kind of works. Hey, boss,
sort
what do you think
of like a Da Vinci.
Exactly.
But I like the idea of there being like multiple Da Vincis cropping up at the same time.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yes.
Because of the whole university thing, which is a good thing for people in general, but terrible for the Sorcerer Kings.
Yes.
So the Sorcerer Kings actually have an invested interest in keeping, in being even more conservative in the way they use their magic.
Right.
Which it makes them even more hidebound. So yeah, I like the idea of the Sorcerer Kings being doomed because of how hidebound and how terrified they are of innovation, even especially now. Right. But just not coming to the idea, just not being able to see the idea that their time is limited, and no matter what gains they make now in a couple generations, the whole idea is going to be
right.
The world will be changed in a few generations, whether they want it to be or not.
Right. Ooh, Eric. I think there should be at least one Sorcerer King who sees the handwriting on the wall.
Yes.
He's not he or she may not be adapting to it as fast as they probably should. But and maybe not like a Sorcerer King, like maybe one of some noble in his there's one Sorcerer King who's not quite as hidebound as the others, and maybe a noble further down his court actually sees the handwriting on the wall, and is sort of quietly trying to generate sort of a soft landing for the sorcerers.
Yes.
So they at least have a place in
his liege. Yeah.
Yeah, right. So that at least he and he and those he respects and likes, there'll be a place for them and their families to sort of a soft landing for them in what's coming.
Yeah.
It's as a class, the sorcerers are doomed.
Yes. Yeah, kind of like how it took them a long time to figure out, but eventually everyone realized that monarchy was on the way out, and all it would take is something big and stupid. Along comes here comes World War I. Here's a big pile of stupid. Monarchies are now dead. So for England, because they figured it out ahead of time and set up the soft landing. Yeah, I really like that idea. Like, yeah, like there's one guy who's trying to put trying to build sees the writing on the wall and is trying to build that soft landing, and he's basically trying to set up a parliamentary way of doing things, so that the Sorcerer Kings still get to be in charge, and are still respected at least within his own kingdom.
Yep, that's cool, and that's one of those things that, like, it's sort of, he's trying to keep it under wraps right now because, dear Lord, if like some of the higher ups knew about what he's trying to do, they'd probably have his head.
Yeah, he might even have. Oh, I like the idea that he has the covert support of the heir apparent, but not the king.
Right.
Like, I can't endorse this publicly. And really, because my dad would probably kill me too.
Right. And it's like, and it's not like and his dad is less reactionary than most of the Sorcerer Kings, but this sort of thing, no.
Yeah, he would see this as a direct assault on his authority.
Right, exactly.
Because it totally is.
Well, it is, yeah, exactly. But the heir is like, it's like, oh, you're right. We are kind of screwed if things keep going the way they're going, and they probably are.
Like the whole genie is out of the bottle. Literally in this case. And we used up all our wishes on candy, so he's not going back in.
Shit. Why did we wish for candy? But it was good candy.
It was really good candy.
It was really,
he didn't monkey paws at all on that candy.
All right, let's see what else. What else we need in here? But yeah, so going back to it, I definitely think that ooh, okay. Here's a thought. Okay, so I like the idea of the revolutionaries, which we got to come up with a better term for it. I think. I think, again, I like the idea of there being multiple nations there and them being maybe somewhat different politically.
Yeah.
Because they have different political ideologies. It's like at least one of them's a republic.
Yeah, there'll be we can have a republic, we can have that's run by like a council of lords, we can have the hyper-capitalist robber baron state.
But anyways,
because you always have to have one of those.
Sure. But one of the things I'm thinking is, as you mentioned, it being sort of more cosmopolitan. So, I definitely think I like the idea of there being dwarves, because dwarves are awesome. And I like the idea. Here's an idea I just had. So the dwarves basically have seen what the Sorcerer Kings are up to and how the elves are acting. The elves had been acting. They knew about the elves. Dwarves don't really have much truck with magic, just in general. Not because they think it's bad or anything. It's just they're not particularly. They're decent at enchanting, but they're not good at much of anything else, any other sort of magic. So they're just basically saying, "Fuck y'all. We're just going to stay underground. We'll trade with you occasionally if you want to give us stuff that we care about."
They do the whole like isolationist Lost Empire kind of deal,
right?
It's like,
but
okay,
when the genie, the proverbial genie got out of the bottle, So here's my thought. So that we have one of those Da Vinci types who's come up with this idea, this sort of Arcano idea, engineering type of thing, and he happened to be on a trading mission talking to the dwarves with one of the dwarven kingdoms, And he got to talking with, like, because he's obviously he's a minor noble because he was in the university.
Right.
So he's talking with some minor, some sort of apprentice engineer in one of the dwarven guilds. And so he showed him this nifty idea he came up with, and the two of them together collaborated to create something actually functional.
Mm.
So the dwarves actually embraced the whole magical technology thing because, of course, they did.
Of course they did.
And they're the ones who basically, so between the collaboration with the dwarves and the peoples in this area, so the dwarves are a big part of it. And they don't have to. They found humans. They don't have to, like, sort of say, you people are stupid.
Right.
Say, wait. You're not being, like, you're not trying. It's like, no, this is good stuff. You come up with something clever, and well, it's more a case of just it's a place for the dwarves to actually interact with the surface world that is not useless to the dwarves, basically.
Right.
Again, it's a case of they're not just providing us with, like, raw materials that only occur on the surface. Like, we actually can have actual real relations with them. So, like, young dwarves are now moving to the cities on the surface because they want to study with these arcano engineers on the surface. And occasionally have people from from these places going to visit the dwarves for learning metallurgy secrets and shit, because of course.
Right. I'm totally going to steal an idea for goblins from Iron Kingdoms.
Okay.
And that goblins have always been sort of like a Romany type of thing.
Sure.
And, like, there are a lot more of them settling in the Aether states, we'll call them.
I like the Aether states. Aether states, that's good. I like it.
Settling in the Aether states because, well, commerce is a lot more open. There's a lot more demand for their natural inclinations towards being small and nimble for getting into the mills and shit. And well, they're not, because they're and commerce is open. So the goblin traders come in, people buy shit from goblin traders. They're not immediately run off, and people don't necessarily assume that they're going to cheat them. But they still have that, like, very, like, sort of, like, wanderer type of thing. Like, it's not uncommon for a tribe of goblins to come in, set up shop, sell and trade for a while, maybe take up some odd jobs at the local Aether mill or Aether wheels for a couple months before pulling up stakes and moving along again. And they follow a calendar that only they understand, and which is why they're so frickin' random when they show up and leave.
All right. I like that.
But you're also seeing more goblins breaking from tradition to settle permanently in places, because there's always need for goblin mechanics inside the mills and the workshops, because they're tiny and they're nimble and they can get where shit needs to get done. Otherwise, they'd have to use kids, and it really would be the Industrial Revolution. It would be fucking terrible.
I like that. Yes, it's like, like, without the goblins, we'd have to use children. And seriously, no. Like, sure, some of the Sorcerer Kings would do that, but, like, they're assholes.
And I think orcs are...
Ashburner. We're fixing history's mistakes by making all new ones.
Yes, we are.
All right.
I also like the idea of orcs being less common, mostly because orcs make excellent shock troops, so a lot of them have been recruited by the Sorcerer Kings.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that association where they want to be attached to it or not, as shock troopers and enforcers for the Sorcerer Kings. So you've got less orcs in the Aether Kingdoms, or the Aether States.
Okay.
But they're also becoming more common because the ones that that are there are, well, they're having families. They're breeding, and they are actually integrating. So,
yep, I like that.
But you still have like your traditional like orc raider tribes and whatnot.
Sure, of course you do. I mean, that's a given.
Of course you do.
But like, again, like the orcs are being welcomed to the Aether states because there's always like a demand in early industrial society for people who are big and strong and tough and willing to work hard.
Yes. Yes, good old-fashioned labor, and orcs make excellent laborers.
And I'm certain there's plenty, and if an orc shows a particular talent for engineering, great. We need more engineers.
Oh, I really like that. There is in fact a shop that is run by a dwarf, but it's almost. But other than being managed by the dwarf has actually no talent for artificing at all. He's just a good businessman. But the place is actually completely like all the artificing and building and machinery is done by orcs and goblins.
Yes, I like it. It's like, yeah, he's the boss. Well, what kind of sort of engineering has he done? None. What do you mean?
Terrible at it. Never let him near the mills.
So why is he the boss? Dear Lord, that man knows how to use that. He knows numbers.
That man knows numbers like nothing else.
He knows that dwarf knows numbers like nothing else, and dear Lord, he knows how to manage people. And he'll hire
a good face man too. And he's a good face man for the shop also.
Yeah, we all like working for him. He's a good boss, but he doesn't know engineering. And
so
he trusts us engineers to know what the fuck we're doing. Yeah, like when we want to propose an idea, we have to go talk to him, explain what it's going to do.
I like the idea that shop is not known for making things pretty, but damn is their shit tough. Like redundancies on top of redundancies kind of deal.
Yep, I like it. All right, that's good. Yeah, so I was going to ask you how we're going to work the orcs in, because I knew you would want to work orcs.
Well, of course, they're going to be orcs.
And this works well.
Yes.
All right, cool. So we got that. We got all that stuff. And so we've also said there are dragons in the world. Of course, there are.
Yep.
And we mentioned them a couple of times. I like the idea of sort of the otherworldly horror type stuff not really being a part of things in this.
Yeah, the closest thing you get are the elven flesh crafters.
Right, exactly. That's our source of weird ookiness. Well, that and the sorcerer, the more necromantically focused Sorcerer Kings necromantic troops.
Yep.
Although I think virtually every sort of kingdom every one of those kingdoms has at least some group of necromancers who work for them, because of course they do. Necromancy is too goddamn useful.
Yes.
Even if it is
yes, of course you have fodder. Of course you're going to have cheap fodder made by necromancers.
But not all of them are as focused on doing that. Because it's
right.
It's one particular.
There are a couple that are really good at making the higher forms of undead. So their armed forces are not just the fodder, but their elite troops are also undead. And the living troops fill out that sort of middle ground of general line soldier.
Right. Ooh. Stefan in the chat asks if there are any dragons allied or living in the Aether states. I like the idea of there actually being one or two dragons who do. There's a dragon who actually one of the Aether states is actually their overall overarching leader is a dragon who's thought all this stuff's really cool.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. I dig that. There is a greater dragon in the states, and he's nominally the king of that state. But
yes,
it's largely run by a parliament, which is what Schmucko back in the Sorcerer Kings is modeling his idea on.
Because he saw this and sees it as working.
Yes. So the dragon thinks all this stuff is really cool, and he doesn't want to move, but he can't be bothered with the day-to-day managing of shit.
It's you are our king.
Really just wants.
I don't want to be your king.
He really just wants veto power and to hang out. That's all he really wants.
And to occasionally do some tinkering when he feels like it.
Right.
Or she. I mean, it's a dragon. Who cares?
It's a dragon. We can say that outside of mating season, dragons don't place considerable emphasis on gender.
Outside of mating season, they don't give a flying fuck about gender. Gender doesn't matter to dragons.
Yep. They're like, yeah. They're like, male, female, whatever. I've got more important things to worry about. So, how does this flywheel work again?
That's really interesting. It's a real shame my claws are too big to actually do this directly. I need to spend a decade researching a shape-shifting spell so I can shrink myself down to a size where I can actually do this shit.
Yes.
I like that idea, actually.
Oh, I like that the dragon already has the shape-shifting spell. And but he only uses it when he's tinkering or using he as the general pronoun here.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But only uses it during state functions where he needs to go someplace that isn't built for dragon scale, or when he's tinkering. And the gender he never paid attention to the gender, so the magic sort of picks one for him at random.
Yes. So occasionally, like the dragon will show up to a state function either as male or female. Just
always wearing the same outfit.
Right. Yes.
I like the idea that he thinks pants are silly. So whatever gender he is, he's always wearing a dress of some sort.
Okay, I like it.
But
with pockets, because he agrees that
pockets are important. I don't care if they ruin the line of my dress. I want pockets. Pockets are important.
It's useful to put it. You need pockets to put things in. I'm envisioning this dragon has, like, in dragon form, actually has, like, a vest with pocket festooned all over it, like one of those photographer's vests.
Yes. If I'm going to be tiny, then I'm going to have pockets to put my tiny fingers in to get tiny things.
All right, I like that. So yeah,
I'm sort of envisioning the King of Norway. Eccentric and lovable and well loved by the people for exactly those reasons.
Yep. I also like the idea of his mate showing up every now and then and being utterly befuddled by all his sort of engineering stuff, but not being like disapproving, just like, I don't get this, dear. I don't understand whatever. Enjoy your tinkering and enjoy your monarching. I'm gonna go do something else.
Yes.
It's your turn to watch Junior, but dear. I'm gonna go hunting. I don't know why I love that idea so much. Actually, no. I think I like the idea. The monarch, this monarch having a mate who may not really get the whole Arcano engineering thing at the same level, but approves of him actually having basically become monarch.
Yes.
It's like, oh, sweet.
Yeah, I could dig that. Yeah.
So yeah, so nominally if he's like they call him a king despite the fact he's not necessarily. It could be actually, I like the idea that the dragon question is female, but the title is still king because that's just the title. Oh, Eric's cutting out here. Crap, Discord's being dumb. Hang on a second.
Yeah.
I will stop and restart Discord very quickly.
Cool.
Sorry, folks. This will take not but a moment. All right, here we go.
All right, cool.
All right. All right, Ash in the chat brings up, this dragon is why steampunk fashion exists. Of course I wear goggles everywhere. What if I need to fix something? But yes.
Have you seen how weak the eyes are in this form? There's no way I'm not wearing goggles.
But yes, I like the idea that that dragon is actually female, but the title is, since the title just said that it's been used since the Sorcerer Kings and all this stuff is for the one in charge is the king. Well, that's the title. It's the name of the job.
Right.
But no, but the female monarch is queen. Have you seen what the queens do in the Sorcerer State? That's not the job. It's different.
No, I am king. I am king. I am the Dragon King. The end. But you're female. Who cares?
Yes, and my maid is male, and they're the queen. It makes perfect sense.
When he bothers to show up.
I'll be at the next state function, dear. I'm looking forward to dancing. That's definitely. I think that's actually kind of interesting.
Yes. I like the idea that that you have high dragons and low dragons. Low dragons are more like the monstery type, and those are the ones that typically get that are completely untamable and
have to be that the Sorcerer Kings ensorcel.
Yes,
I like that. Yes,
because the idea of ensorcering a high dragon. Well, let's just say a
high king. One of the Sorcerer Kings did that once, and it didn't go well for them long term.
Yeah.
The other high dragons sort of objected. And
there's some debate about just how intelligent the low dragons are.
Sure.
The high dragons certainly don't think much of them.
Right. Oh, the Sorcerer Kings are ensorceling the low dragons. Whatever.
But certainly the so-called low dragons have no interest in communicating or dealing with humans at all, so they end up being ensorcelled. But when they do, they tend to show remarkable cunning that seems to imply greater than animal intelligence.
Sure, I like that.
But they're much more likely just to eat you than talk with you.
Oh, God,
if they're capable of talking. Everyone kind of assumes they're not. But, every once in a while, like, one of them, like, completely outthinks the hunters after them in a hilarious manner.
Sure.
And hilarious and terrifying manner.
Yes. High dragons are definitely much rarer, because duh.
Yes.
All right. Let's see what else do we need. But yeah, I like that. But yeah, so there's definitely a lot of there's more interest in what's going on amongst the humans now among the high dragons because of the whole the etheric states. They're like, that's interesting, and one of us has become
paradigm shift like that in millennia. Neat.
And one of us is actually ruling over one of these states. We should pay attention to this.
Yeah, but it has to be. She's insane.
Whatever. Yeah, but she's invested. She hasn't been invested in anything in at least 3 centuries.
I really love the idea of like some state function, like both her and her mate showed up in male forms because that's just the forms they ended up in that day, and there's a bit of a scandal amongst those who didn't know better.
Right. Like the people from their kingdom are like, "What are you people complaining? What are you worried about?" But
they're dragons. They do whatever the hell they want.
This is just their shapeshifted form. It does, even if it wasn't, who fucking cares? They're dragons.
I like the idea that the dragon state is by the dragon state is the most liberal and progressive of them.
Yes.
As far as social matters go.
Yes, absolutely.
Like they actually have a form of welfare for the poor beyond just debtor prisons and whatnot.
I like it.
They're also probably the smallest.
Yes.
Because the dragon just doesn't want to have to deal with that much territory. Like, if I'm actually ruling it, it's just a pain in the ass.
It'll take time away from my tinkering. Yes, I like that.
So you basically have, like, say, like, I don't know, Liechtenstein or Monte Carlo or something.
Hang on a second. I want to check something here. Bavaria, kind of like Bavaria, actually, I'm thinking. Maybe, I don't know. I was just thinking of Mad King Ludwig.
Yeah,
His obsession with castles, for some reason.
Yes.
But instead of castles, you know, Arcanotech. All right, so we've got a sort of a general framework of the world now. So the question is, how do the players interact with it? What sorts of games would we look at would be likely to happen in this kind of a setting?
I think that depends on where the game master wants to set it.
Right, exactly. And I think there are a couple of options to do that too. Like I do think like you're not just tied to running a campaign in the etheric states. I think there could be a really interesting campaign set in either the Elven Theocracy or in one of the Sorcerer Kingdoms.
Yep. No, I agree.
Yep.
Like I imagine the Aether states do a lot with what's what I'm looking for, with mercenaries and whatnots. Well, the Sorcerer Kings have actual like knightly orders and are probably they're probably like the biggest patrons of more traditional adventurer groups, because send them out to get artifacts and find like certain rare materials and whatnot.
Oh yeah, there's got to be some like ancient fallen kingdoms that have ruins
Yes,
scattered
there are
all
always
over the
ancient fallen kingdoms. Come on,
right, with ruins all over the place that adventurers can go exploring. And like you could easily do something where like the players are actually like they actually have like the Duke of whatever, who's the guy who's trying to engineer the sort of the parliamentary thing in one of the kingdoms, as their actual patron.
Right.
And so he's sending them off to do stuff and get various things, and they don't really understand why he wants them to get the things they're getting. Because he's not letting them know what his long-term plans are either.
Could also have the a similar thing with the in the Aether states, only instead of being hired by like guild bosses and whatnot to go and stake out like new ley line nexuses and whatnot.
Sure, absolutely. Oh, and they're almost certainly magical artifacts are almost certainly things that the Aether states want, so they can at least study them.
Yeah, everybody wants magic artifacts. I mean, as far as Aether states are concerned, that's free money right there.
Exactly.
Or free work, rather, because you bring it back, and somehow these things are self-powered, and no, we don't know how. But we're not going to break them to find out because they're way too useful.
But we can study them, and as long as we don't damage them in our studying, they're still usable.
Yes.
I like that. And of course, like the Elven Theocracy. I mean, you've got a lot of things you can do there too.
Oh yeah. My first thought is like a dedicated strike team, like put together by like one of their priest kings to go and take care of this issue, whatever issue that might be.
Right. No, I like that. But yeah, so there are definitely like lots of little adventures, and like
yeah. Like Stefan mentions like a rebel campaign in the Sorcerer Kingdoms.
Sure. Absolutely.
You could even do like traditionalists in the Aether states.
Yeah, sure.
Or maybe another like more progressive rebel movement in. I say progressive, but who knows with the elves. But like a one that's more interested in exploring and exploiting the arcane magic.
Right. Oh, sure. There's got to be elves out there who look at how the Theocracy is going on about how bad Arcane Magic is and think they're completely full of shit.
Right.
Like, if this was so bad, wouldn't the gods do something about it directly?
I mean, obviously. Right? Shut up. The gods gave us free will for a reason. But shut up.
Oh dear Lord, Elven Protestants.
Yeah.
Well, except, with a reverse on the free will thing, but,
Yeah.
I like the idea of they occasionally use magic artifacts as actual raw power sources. So imagine like a land ship being powered by a magic sword roaming the lands. I like that, Stefan.
I like that a lot.
All right, the power source is a sword. What?
Wouldn't believe the amount of Aether this thing pumps out. Wouldn't it be useful to use as a weapon? Yes, so the land ship carrying our army goes to the battle lines, and then the general uses the sword.
Or, we just leave it in the land ship to power the Aether cannons, which have much more range than a fucking sword.
Either way, we get to double dip here, guys. It's great.
I mean, if the GM wants to go with the angle that the elves are right, like, you could have like a campaign centered around, revolving around what the actual price of Aether tech is.
Yeah. Like, it could be like failing crops, or like a weird plague that turns out that seems to emanate from the mills, that kind of shit.
Our Bardic DM and Ashburner actually bring up the point of, what if the magic sword is intelligent?
What if the magic sword is the general?
So instead of having like a normal land ship, what we have is basically a Magetek ogre.
Yes, holy shit.
If you don't know what I'm referring to, C. Jackson Games back in the 80s made a miniatures game called Ogre, which was in a world where basically humanity made these super intelligent super tanks called ogres, but they were run by AIs, and it was basically the game question. The game question was a battle between an ogre and against a bunch of conventional troops.
Right. And the ogres are generally equipped with tactical nukes.
Yeah.
And a lot of the fight was slowing down. Well, it was basically revolved around keeping the ogre from getting in range of its target to use the tac nuke.
Exactly. It's actually kind of neat. It's an interesting little game. And I love the idea of the gigantic, super intelligent battle tanks.
Everyone loves the idea of the gigantic, super intelligent battle tanks.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to go on about for this? What else do we need to do for this? Come up with this campaign, or are we sort of at the point where we should be wrapping it up?
I think we're good to wrap it up, because it still has a lot of space for people to tack their own stuff on top of.
Yeah.
But they've got a really good framework to hang shit off of.
I would agree with that. So I think this is where we're going to wrap things up for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope you guys found this campaign idea to be interesting and entertaining. If you guys want to and you're interested, let us know what you were things like ideas for this campaign setting. We'd love to hear your ideas for them.
Yes.
Or for any of the campaign settings we've brainstormed up. I'd love to hear like adventure hook ideas for them, and like ideas for like actual NPCs to put in them, and or player, just like adventure ideas, little extra bits of stuff that one could add to them that might be interesting. Your own takes on these ideas. We'd love to hear them.
Yes, absolutely.
So if we get enough of those, we might actually share those at some point on stream, because I think that'd be kind of interesting. But we'd love to hear them. So if you've got those ideas, you can email them to us. Our email address is surlygrognards@yahoo.com, or you can post them in the comment section on YouTube. We'd love to hear this. I think that'd be really interesting. That's just occurred to me. I kind of like to see what our listeners would think of to do with the stuff we've been brainstorming up.
Mm.
And if I also would love to, like, if you guys have been listening to our brainstorming episodes, is there a particular of those campaign settings you find most interesting? I'd love to sort of hear that also, and what about them you really liked? I'm genuinely curious. So same thing, same email address, same over the YouTube comments. If you've got questions you'd like us to answer on the show, we normally save time at the end of each episode to answer viewer questions. We're not doing it this week because, well, we've been going for the full hour basically, and we don't generally do that on the brainstorming episodes because we tend to go long.
Right.
But if you do have questions you'd like us to answer on the show, just email them to us. Our email address is surlygrognards@yahoo.com, surlygrognards@yahoo.com, or you can post them in the comment section on YouTube. And other than that, oh right, if you've got feedback for us, ways we can make the show better, things, constructive criticism, that sort of thing, we love getting that. Please send it to us. And if you have show topic suggestions, we love getting those. Please send them to us. Even if we're not going to use them immediately, we often bank them for later, or sometimes they spark other ideas for shows. But we love getting those. Please send them to us. We really do appreciate that. Other than that, I think that's it for this week. Oh, right. We record the show every Monday on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern here on twitch.tv/MechaGM. And I tweet out when the show's going to go live. My Twitter handle is @MechaGM. Just follow me there. You'll find out when we're going to be going live. Or you can follow me on Twitch, and you'll get updates on that also through the Twitch mail thing. Other than that, though, that's going to do it for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I think that's it for now. So, see you guys next time, everybody.
Bye, humans.